Over 50 million people today call themselves Korean. But where did they actually come from? The answer isn't one story, it's layers, built over tens of thousands of years. Scientists piece it together from bones, tools, language, and DNA. Let's travel that timeline, 5 seconds at a time. From Stone Age hunters to Bronze Age kingdoms to modern Korea. Every era added new people, new ideas, new blood to the mix. The story stretches far beyond the peninsula itself. This is the real, evidence-based story of Korean origins. Let's start at the very beginning. 700,000 years ago, the Korean peninsula looked nothing like it does now. During ice ages, lower seas connected it directly to the Asian mainland. Early human groups could simply walk in no boats needed. Stone tools found at sites like Joinggak-ri date back hundreds of thousands of years. These are traces of Homo erectus, not modern humans yet. Ice ages came and went, reshaping the land again and again. Small hunting bands moved through in search of game. Most evidence points to migration from continental Northeast Asia. By 40,000 years ago, modern Homo sapiens reached the peninsula. These are the ancestors of everyone who would later live here. As the last ice age ended, rising seas cut the peninsula off. Korea began to take the shape we recognize today. Isolated but not empty, small Paleolithic populations already lived here. They hunted, gathered, and adapted to a changing climate. This Paleolithic period laid the very first human layer on the peninsula. Warmer centuries were coming, and with them, a new way of life. Coastal food sources become more important as the climate warms. Some groups began fishing the coasts and rivers. The stage was set for the next major shift, the Neolithic. A more settled way of life was about to begin. Around 8000 BC, a new era begins, the Neolithic. It's named for a distinctive style, Julmun comb pattern pottery. Genetic and cultural evidence suggests new groups arrived from Siberia and the Amur River region. These newcomers settled along rivers and coastlines in small villages. Fishing and shellfish gathering became central to daily life. They lived in semi-underground pit houses for warmth. These new arrivals didn't replace the earlier people they mixed with them. Modern genetic studies show this early admixture in Korean ancestry today. Some researchers also trace connections to the Liaoning region of Manchuria. Trade networks linked the peninsula to a much wider region. Toward the end of this era, early millet farming appears. Agriculture slowly supplements hunting and fishing. Villages grow larger and more permanent. Linguists believe early language ancestors of Korean may trace to this era or later. Whether Korean is related to Altaic languages like Mongolian and Turkic is still debated by linguists. Some linguists group Korean with Japanese and Tungusic languages loosely, others see it as a language isolate. There's no full consensus, the debate continues in academic circles. What is clear, the population is slowly growing and diversifying. Pottery styles evolve too, reflecting cultural change over centuries. Then, a new material arrives that would change everything: bronze. The Bronze Age begins, bringing new technology and new people. Another wave of migration is linked to bronze working cultures from Manchuria. These groups brought distinctive bronze daggers and tools. Bronze technology likely arrived through both trade and migration. This is the age when the first organized societies begin to form. Bronze Age society brought clearer leadership and social hierarchy. Massive stone dolmens appear across the peninsula, burial monuments for the powerful. Korea has more dolmens than almost anywhere else on Earth. Rice farming spreads alongside existing millet and barley crops. Trade connects peninsula communities to Manchuria and the Yellow Sea coast. Around this time, a founding legend takes shape, the story of Dangun. According to legend, a bear became human and gave birth to Dangun. Dangun is said to have founded Gojoseon, the first Korean kingdom, in 2333 BCE. This is treasured cultural legend, not something historians can verify literally. Real Gojoseon likely formed later, gradually, from Bronze Age chiefdoms. Historical Gojoseon emerges around the 4th century BCE in the Liaoning northern Korea region. It becomes the first confirmed Korean state, blending local and migrant peoples. Gojoseon interacts and competes with neighboring Chinese states. Political upheaval in China sends waves of refugees into the peninsula. These migrants add yet another layer to the peninsula's population. In 108 BCE, the Han Chinese Empire conquers Gojoseon. Han China sets up military commanderies in the north. Local peoples resist and adapt, absorbing some Chinese cultural influence. Meanwhile, southern and eastern peoples organize into their own confederacies. Groups like Buyo, Okyo, Dongye, and the Saohan confederacies take shape. These groups share related but distinct cultures and likely related ancestry. This is the ethnic and cultural patchwork Korea grows from. No single group is the ancestor. Koreans descend from all of them combined. genes, language, and customs all braided together over centuries. Out of this patchwork, powerful new kingdoms begin to rise. Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla emerge as the major powers. Goguryeo controls a vast northern territory, deeply tied to Manchurian roots. Baekje forms in the southwest with strong ties to southern China. Silla forms in the southeast, more isolated and slower to expand. This is the Three Kingdoms period, a defining era for Korean identity. For centuries, these three kingdoms compete, war, and trade with each other. Silla eventually allies with Tang China against its rivals. Baekje falls in 660 C, Goguryeo falls in 668 C. Silla unifies most of the peninsula for the first time. Populations that were once politically separate now live under one rule. This is often seen as the first true unification of a Korean people. In the north, the kingdom of Balhae rises from Goguryeo refugees and local Manchurian peoples. Historians sometimes call this the North-South States period. Balhae eventually falls, and many of its people migrate south. More northern peoples merge into the growing Korean population. In 918 C, the kingdom of Goryeo unifies the peninsula again. The name Korea actually comes from Goryeo. Goryeo trades widely, even reaching merchants from the Middle East. In the 13th century, Mongol invasions bring yet another wave of contact and in places. Intermarriage, Mongol-Korean unions, especially among royalty, add another genetic thread. Despite this, Goryeo culture and identity remain distinct and dominant. In 1392, the Joseon dynasty takes power. Joseon rules for over 500 years, shaping much of what we call traditional Korean culture today. Confucian philosophy, hanbok clothing, and centralized governance define this era. Population grows steadily, largely from internal growth rather than new migration. Compared to earlier periods, large-scale foreign migration slows dramatically. In 1443, King Sejong introduces Hangul, a native Korean writing system. This strengthens a shared distinct Korean linguistic identity. By this point, the peninsula's population is a deeply blended, long-settled people. Genetically, centuries of intermixing have produced a relatively homogeneous population, not from one ancestor, but from many peoples fused into one over time. Modern DINA studies show Koreans are genetically closest to other Northeast Asians, especially populations in Japan, Mongolia, and Manchuria, reflecting this shared deep history. This foundation carries forward into the modern era. In the late 1800s, Korea opens up to greater foreign contact. From 1910 to 1945, Korea is under Japanese colonial rule. This period brings hardship, forced labor, and cultural suppression. After liberation in 1945, the peninsula is divided into North and South. Two separate states form, North Korea and South Korea. The Korean War deepens this division. Since then, North and South Korea have developed very differently politically and economically. But genetically and culturally, people on both sides share the same deep ancestry. Since the 20th century, Koreans have also emigrated worldwide. Large diaspora communities now exist in the US, China, Japan, and Central Asia. These communities maintain strong cultural and often genetic ties back to the peninsula. In recent decades, South Korea has also seen new immigration. Workers and families from Southeast Asia, China, and elsewhere now call Korea home too. Multicultural families are a growing part of modern Korean society. So let's answer the question directly. Paleolithic hunter-gatherers crossed from the Asian mainland tens of thousands of years ago. Neolithic peoples from Siberia and the Amur region arrived and mixed with them. Bronze Age migrants from Manchuria brought new technology and more admixture. Warring kingdoms Goguryeo, Baekje, Silla, and others each added distinct threads. Unification under Silla and later Goryeo wove these threads into one people. Centuries of stability under Joseon solidified a shared language and culture. Every layer combined to create the Korean people we recognize today. At the genetic level, Koreans share deep roots with other Northeast Asian populations. The evidence favors layered migration and blending, not a single origin point. The Dangun legend remains a cherished cultural symbol, even if not literal history. Culture, legend, and science all tell parts of the same larger story. Today's Koreans are the living result of all of it. Ancestry isn't a single moment, it's a process spanning tens of thousands of years. And that process connected the peninsula to a much wider world the whole time. No people exist in isolation, and Koreans are no exception. It took hundreds of thousands of years to arrive at Korean as we know it. Every tool, migration, and kingdom mattered. Together, they form one continuous, evolving story. And that story is still being written today. That's where Korean people really came from. Key takeaway 1. Korean ancestry begins with ancient migrations from the Asian mainland. Key takeaway 2, it builds up in layers Paleolithic, Neolithic, Bronze Age, and beyond. Key takeaway 3, genetics and culture both point to deep, shared Northeast Asian roots. Key takeaway 4, legend and history are different things, both matter, but they answer different questions. Key takeaway 5, Korean identity, like all identities, continues to evolve even now. From Ice Age hunters to a modern global culture. That long walk across the land bridge never really stopped it, just changed shape. Every population on Earth has a story like this one, if you trace it far enough. Understanding where we come from helps us understand who we are. So where did Korean people come from? From ancient migrants, to Bronze Age settlers, to unified kingdoms, to today. This answer comes from archaeology, linguistics, and genetic research, not myth alone. It's a story still being uncovered by researchers today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through history, consider following for more. There are similar deep stories behind Japan, China, Mongolia, and beyond. Let us know which origin story you'd like explored next. Drop your suggestion in the comments. Every people, every place has a story worth telling. Until next time.